everyone, and welcome back to the Gaming Movie Jerks. November 16th, Half-Life 2 came out on that day, 16 years ago. That's right, this game is older than me, but it's still my favorite game of all time. If you watch the channel, you probably already know that I love this game. In my top 10 favorite games video, it was put at number 1. But I didn't get the chance to say everything I wanted to. I simply didn't have enough time in that video. So in honor of its 16th birthday, I want to talk in a little bit more detail about why Half-Life 2 is the greatest game ever made, in my opinion. Every aspect you'd want in not only a shooter, but also an adventure game is here, and done perfectly. When you set aside the core gameplay, the game really does feel like a well-done adventure story, set in an incredibly well-crafted, detailed, immersive world. The world of Half-Life 2 gives you a feeling of its own desperation, its own need for your existence. It feels like even though the world would still be there if you weren't, it would be a much different place. Notice how I continue to say you rather than Gordon Freeman. That's what the game does so well. It's about you, not Gordon. Notice how there's no in-game model for him, because who he is isn't really important. He doesn't say things for you, nor does the game give you options to choose things for him to say. You just watch and listen to what the other characters have to say, and you respond to it in your own way. Because of this, Half-Life 2 is all about you. It's your experience and your victory. The characters are another aspect at which this game is amazing. During this era of gaming, characters weren't much of a thing, not in action-packed shooters at least. The original Half-Life redefined the first-person shooter, and one of its biggest innovations was its story. Still, that game is rather devoid of characters. Half-Life 2, on the other hand, has characters that have actual goals, motivation, personality, and connections. I think the connections part of that sentence is by far the most important. For example, Alex Vance is related to Eli Vance, and she's friends with Dr. Kleiner and Barney. They have connections to each other, their own bonds, that you come to understand for yourself through their own dialogue. Not only this, but the characters move around in the world. They aren't just found in the same place every time you see them. This truly makes it feel like the world is real, living, breathing world. Things happen in the world of Half-Life 2 even if you didn't witness them. Speaking of not witnessing things, I want to talk about this game's story, and just as importantly, its backstory. I feel like a lot of modern games open up with a long-ass cutscene, dropping plot details everywhere and telling you exactly what is happening. This game, well, it doesn't do that at all. You start on a train and very little is explained. You slowly figure things out by what is happening in the background, by dialogue, and the atmosphere itself. The whole story still shrouds itself in mystery. Though you can figure some things out for yourself, you are never explicitly told what the Combine is or even what the G-Man is. This was top-of-the-line storytelling at the time. Most other games had no story or had a very simple one and usually unimportant one. I mean, what is Doom's story? Does it even matter? Not really. That is just a fantastic game because of its core gameplay and the technological achievements that came with it. Even the original Half-Life, known for its story, still isn't nearly as good as Half-Life 2 in that respect. The original Half-Life starts out with a 20 or 30 minute sequence that sets up the story. To its credit, it's not a cutscene, but there's very little actual FPS gameplay during that segment. Half-Life 2 gets the action going a lot sooner and still manages to tell a more compelling story. One of the key things that makes Half-Life 2 so compelling is the atmosphere it creates. I mean, there's the obvious things like the alien wasteland that is still inhabitable, looking awesome, but there's also the stuff going on in the background. In City 17, there's always conversations, giving you just a glimpse of what daily life is like here. They usually speak of the horrors they've seen, or what could even happen next. Not only conversations, but just the hostility of the Combine guards, it shoves fear right into your face. But sometimes you can even hear Combine radio chatter. The radio sounds are always cool to me, because it gives you a glimpse at life, but from the other perspective, the Combine's perspective. Back to talking about the overall plot, it's pretty unique and paced very well. The plot is split up into important points, and each chapter reflects each point. The journey to each point never feels too long nor disappointingly short. It's just paced out very well. The story is more about uncovering old things than new things happening, which is what I think makes it so unique, even compared to modern games on the market. Since it's a game, we should probably talk about the gameplay. The controls themselves are nothing special. They're not bad by any means, but overall they're completely unremarkable. The only different or new thing is the weapon selection mechanic, which I've always preferred to other mechanics like a weapon wheel or Skyrim's endless menus. I still see many people say that the gameplay is nothing special. I absolutely, completely disagree. Not only is the gunplay better than any other game of the time, there's also the groundbreaking physics engine, which I'll get to later. I think people complain about the gameplay because the game is fairly linear. That's true for some parts of the game, but not the whole game. I don't feel the need to get into specific areas of the game, so I won't. But I will say that a game being linear isn't automatically a bad thing, especially when it's done well like this. I think people take linear the wrong way. They immediately assume linear means that you walk in a straight line and the game tells you exactly what to do. Half-Life doesn't do this at all. It never tells you exactly what to do, though it is well designed to guide you into doing what it wants. Despite this, it still rewards you for thinking outside the box and going off the path by giving you secrets with tons of ammo. One of the other things Half-Life 2 does so well is teaching you how to play. A lot of modern shooters seem to think it's necessary to have a tutorial filled with endless text that you have to read and then figure it out. It is really annoying when a game acts like you've never played a game in your entire life. Use mouse to look around. Oh, really? Yeah, well that hasn't been how PC games have worked for what, almost 30 years now? Anyway, Half-Life does this thing called teaching you without actually saying anything. It assumes you know the basics, because you do, and if you don't, they're basic, you can figure them out pretty quick. Then when a new element of gameplay appears, it shows you what you can do, rather than telling you what to do. A great example is in Ravenholm, where your main weapon is going to be the gravity gun, picking up saw blades and throwing them at enemies. The game never tells you to do this, but before long a saw is blocking your path. You know the gravity gun can lift objects, and oh look, it lifts the saw too. You know you can throw objects with it as well, and holy crap, there's a zombie right there, so you instinctively shoot it with the saw and you slice it right in half. Bam, you know exactly how to kill things in Ravenholm. This may seem obvious when I break it down so much, but I could actually imagine the game as saying in text, you can kill enemies by shooting them with saws. Speaking of the gravity gun, it's one of the most creative and interesting mechanics in any video game ever. It's just so cool, and it lets you play the game however you want to. Sure, you could kill this room of Combine soldiers with a shotgun, or you can pick up a tire and launch at everyone, or maybe you can bump a car on its side and use it as cover. The gravity gun makes everything a weapon. Is a toilet a weapon? Well, if it wasn't before, it certainly is now. The gravity gun is only possible because of this game's groundbreaking physics engine. The physics engine is actually what makes this game. Nearly everyone spends 10 minutes at the start of the game throwing a soda can around, because the physics engine is just so cool. Even today, this level of interactivity with the environment is rarely seen in FPS games. Imagine how revolutionary it was in 2004. The core technological achievements this game stands for alone are enough to make it good. Along with the groundbreaking physics engine, you have graphics that continue to stand the test of time. The lighting still looks great, and the textures are surprisingly high resolution considering the game's age. The facial modeling, lip sync, and general way people move around in this game is pretty amazing too, especially considering that there was no motion capture involved. The sound effects sound great, the voice acting is good, and if you really want a testament to how good this game engine is, Valve continued to use it in all other games for over a decade after this game came out. Half-Life 2 absolutely stands the test of time. Every shooter after this one has a little piece of this game in it. This game sets so many precedents that are still followed in gaming today, and it has so many more features that even games today can't seem to achieve. This game is the greatest game to ever be made, and I don't think anything will ever top it. I'll see you guys next time on the Gaming Movie Jerks.